Well, today we are here with Adrianna Nelson, a familiar face that you see at Steele Creek Park in the Nature Center as she monitors her Bluebird boxes and all of the work that she put into reestablishing the Bluebird trail that we have at the park. And today we're going to be learning with her grandfather,
Hello.
Frank Bush, in his workshop, how to make a Prothonotary Warbler box. And Adrianna, why is it so important for us to do citizen science and even build boxes for birds to give them a place to nest?
Well, citizen science can be important for many reasons. If you are a citizen scientist, that means that you go out and you either help hands-on like we're doing today with boxes, or you gather data in some way and submit it to scientists, and that way it's actually used in real science. And that can help for all sorts of reasons, from tracking population trends to learning about where ranges of certain species are moving and all sorts of different stuff like that, even urbanization and habitat changes and all sorts of things like that. And it's also directly important with things like bird boxes, because you can contribute to habitat for certain species that might be affected by habitat fragmentation or other problems like that. Like the bluebirds in the park benefit directly from boxes, because that way they have extra nesting cavities. And yeah, so there are a lot of good reasons to get involved with citizen science.
So we're going to learn the specifics of a Prothonotary Warbler box. I'm sure they have a different need than, let's just say, a bluebird box.
Yes, so Prothonotary Warbler boxes is something that we're a project that we're kind of recently started in the park, and they do have a slightly different nest box than bluebirds. And actually what I use is something called nestwatch.org. It's a program by the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, and they have lots of great nesting information. And they have nest box plans, which we'll be using today. They've got information on what different eggs look like, what type of nesting birds might be near you, how to enter data, predator solutions, all sorts of really cool stuff. Great resource, and I recommend that you check it out. But that's where I downloaded this nest box plan. It's easy to download online. You can print it out. It's pretty simple. It's just one page. And so yeah, we'll be using that today. So here I have a pine board, and it actually says on the plan what size you need. So this is 1 by 6 inches, and it's 4 feet long. Usually cedar would be a good type of wood to build boxes with, since it's pretty insect resistant and rot resistant. But I found a site online that said Prothonotary warblers prefer pine, so that's why I'm using this for these warblers. So what we did first is we looked at our plan, and we just took a measuring tape and a pencil, and we marked off 8 inches. So we'll go take this to the saw and get cutting.
Okay.
So we just finished cutting everything out. Right here we have an 11-inch piece, that'll be the back. Here are 3 8-inch pieces. They will be the sides and the front. This piece is 8 1/4, and that will be the roof. And this is a 4-inch piece, and that will be the bottom. And it's always a good idea to kind of lay out your pieces first in the way that you're going to nail them together, because more times than one, we've nailed them together wrong. So definitely try to lay it out and make sure everything looks okay. So this is basically how our box is going to look when it's all finished, with the bottom piece in here like this. And so I guess we'll go ahead and start putting it together.
This is an air nailer, or like a pneumatic nailer. It shoots the nails in with compressed air. Now it makes it real handy and quick. But you do not need one of these to make a bird box. You can use galvanized number 6 or number 8 finishing nails like this to nail the box together, and it'll work just fine. So you don't need a lot of equipment, just a hammer and nails to put this together. Now what we do is, you see it's kind of flimsy trying to put it together, but what we do is kind of lay it good flat surface, and you lay it down like that, and just get it square, and 3 or 4 nails in each side is fine.
We aren't gonna nail the other side in yet because we actually want that side to open so that we can check the boxes and keep track of all the data, how many eggs there are, how many young there are, and all that kind of stuff.
What we'll do now is put the bottom in, I guess, because then once we get the bottom in, then we'll do the top like that. And I guess it doesn't really make any difference which side opens, left or right.
So whenever you place your pieces, you want to try to look at the grain of the wood, and you want to try to have the curve facing the inside. So this piece will be like this. So that way, if the wood warps, the top will be curved and water will drain off of it instead of pooling in the middle. So that's important to think about. So one of the things I like too about making birdhouses is putting the bottom up just a little bit from the base of the box. And so that way it kind of reduces moisture around the bottom and keeps the bottom from deteriorating faster. So we'll put it about right there and nail it in.
Sometimes you have them where they miss the board. So that's no problem with that. You can just cut that off.
So the 8 1/4 will be the roof, so it overhangs on the top and water can drain off.
And we got the rings cupping inside. So that goes just like that. And put one in the middle here.
We only have 2 pieces left, but we don't actually have a hole in one of them, so that's pretty important. We have a drill over here, and we're going to show you how to put a hole in your bird box. And the hole is actually one really important part. And if it's too big, sometimes starlings can get in and house sparrows. So that's a really big problem if you've ever worked with cavity nesters before, because they're very aggressive and they'll take over the nests. And so native species like Prothonotary warblers and tree swallows and bluebirds and all that won't be able to use the box. So we're gonna go ahead and drill that out and show you how to do it.
This is a regular hole drill that you buy in sizes. Now, if you don't have something like this, you can use like a regular paddle wood bit. You can buy those in different sizes, like at Lowe's and stuff. But this has a 1 1/4 size, and that's what we're going to use to drill the hole.
We just lined it up. We already have it marked. We marked the top of the hole 1 inch down from the top of the board. And yeah, so we'll just go ahead and drill it out. Be careful where you nail, because sometimes you might accidentally put a nail right through the entrance hole. So just keep in mind when you're nailing the top down. So all we did was use these to clip off the nail on the inside of the hole. So it's an easy fix. Now we're gonna put the side door on, and this is the one that's gonna open. And again, it doesn't really matter which side it is, but if you want to contribute your data to a citizen science program like NestWatch, then you're probably going to want it to open. So that way you can maintain the box after the nesting season, like clean it out. And that way you can control pests if a mouse or a wasp or whatever gets in your box and you need to take care of them. Yeah, and the reason we did this box, again, it's pretty important, is because it's meant specifically for these types of birds. If you go somewhere like Lowe's or Walmart, or you order a box offline, sometimes they aren't really meant for birds. They're just meant to be decorative, and they they don't really, sometimes birds don't even nest in them, or the holes are really big and it's easy for predators to get in. So if you're really interested in helping the birds around maybe your neighborhood or a park or wherever you want to put up a box, try to find one that's made for birds, or even make one yourself. So again, that's just, wanted to bring that up since it's important. So we'll go ahead and put this side door on. This side, we're actually going to leave a gap at the top. It doesn't have to be really big, but that way whenever it swings, the corner doesn't catch. So we just want it down low enough so it can swing all the way open. And also this will allow for some ventilation, and I'll actually talk about that a little more later, but that's what we're going to do for now. We're going to leave a tiny little gap at the top.
And you have to kind of pre-drill these holes so it doesn't fit real tight, because this door is going to have to swing up and back. So that's what we're going to do here now, is pre-drill the holes.
So we'll just put in a nail here, just held in there loosely, so that way whenever you go up to check the box, you can just pull the nail out, which holds it shut, open it, close it back, and stick the nail back in.
For this one we use what they call a common nail. This has got a head on it. It's not a finishing nail like these other ones were. This has a head on it. That's going to give you something when you want to take it out. You can get something to hold it onto and pull it out.
This hole doesn't need to be particularly tight, because this will stay closed even if the nails only fit in there loosely. So just make it big enough so that it's comfortable enough for you to pull it in and out. And so you can check on your eggs and nestlings, and that's all our pieces. So that's how you do the main part of the box. There are a few extra details that I want to cover that help make nesting birds probably even more successful when you have them. So one of the things we'll do on this side is drill a couple holes at the top, so that way we can have cross ventilation from the little gap on this side. This is pretty important if you live in a region where it gets pretty hot in the summer, especially if the box isn't under any shade. So we'll go ahead and drill a couple holes there.
These are 3/8 inch drill bit that we're going to put the ventilation holes in it, and it's just a regular 3/8 inch bit.
Good. You just want to have them close to the top. It doesn't really matter how far down, and you probably want to have 2 or 3 at the top. And something else we're going to do is add drainage to the bottom, so that way if water gets in the box, or if the birds happen to have any diseases or pests like nest parasites, they can actually fall out through the bottom. So we'll drill holes in each of the corners as well. There's the holes in the bottom, and there's the holes in the side.
And we don't need any over here because you got the crack there.
Right. Whenever you finish your box, you're gonna want to put scratches on the inside, on the back side or the front. Now, if you're using cedar, you're gonna want to build with the smooth side out and the rough side facing in. And usually if you have cedar, it will be rough enough that the birds can grab a hold of it and climb out easier. Some species like true swallows and bluebirds have particularly weak feet whenever they're young, and sometimes they can't get out of the box. So there's a couple ways that you can fix the inside so that way they can get out easier. And again, if you're using cedar, it's already pretty much rough enough and you really don't have to do anything. They can get a hold on that. I've heard of some people using a type of wire mesh like hardware fabric and just attaching it to the inside of the box like this. If you do that, make sure that it's pretty flat against the box so that way they don't get their toes stuck in it. Another way that we're gonna do is we're just gonna make some scratches on the inside so that way they can grab a hold of it. So we're gonna do that real fast.
And we do that, just take a regular saw, and the teeth on the end are perfect for gouging in the wood. We're not gonna saw it or anything. And then I'll just take it and come down about 1 inch or so like that, and just pull it across like that. And then come down a little bit, put put another one. Probably 2 about like that is enough, because the nest will be up to almost to the first one like that. So that's just a couple of scratches that get their toes in it.
And it definitely doesn't have to look pretty. It just it just has to be 2 or 3 scratches just to help them out a little bit. Is when you mount the box, there are things that you can do to make it a little more predator proof. So we'll show you that next time, some other predator proofing ideas. And a lot of people like to paint their boxes and make them look pretty. If you want to paint a box, I recommend not using really bright colors, just because sometimes that can attract predators. And if you do choose to paint it, only paint the outside. Do not paint the inside, because there is some data that might suggest that it hurts the birds, any toxins from the paint that are inside the box. So do not paint the inside of the box. But if you do want to paint the outside, it'll help it last longer and maybe even blend in more if that's something that you're looking for. Another thing that we did on our last box was add a little metal guard in the front. And a lot of Bluebird boxes, you'll actually see a wooden block in the front. And it doesn't deter the birds, but for predators like squirrels and raccoons, it makes the opening too long for them to reach their arms in and grab out eggs or young. So I don't know if all birds will continue nesting if they use a block, so make sure to do your research. Last time we just used hardware fabric, and we cut out a square and cut out the shape of the hole and stapled it to the front. And that seems to be working pretty well. So there are a lot of different things you can do from here on out to, make your boxes fancy and even more predator proof. So yeah, these are the basics. That's how you get your box. And I definitely suggest looking into nestwatch.org and other citizen science programs. I've been doing Nest Watch for several years now, and it's really great just for me personally to keep track of all the nesting that's been going on at the park, and I can tell what has been successful and what hasn't been as much. And this data gets used by scientists and different organizations like the Tennessee Bluebird Society and the North Carolina Bluebird or the North America Bluebird Society. So yeah, check it out and build your own bird box. I think that's all we have for today. So thank you. Hey everybody, my name's Adrianna, and today I'm here at Steele Creek Park to show you guys about my Bluebird boxes. And Bluebird Boxes is a project I've been working on in the park. There used to be a Bluebird box trail, which basically is just a bunch of Bluebird boxes that get monitored regularly. And I kind of restored it and added new boxes. And I've been doing that as part of citizen science. And that basically means that people just contribute data to scientists, and that data can be used in all sorts of different ways, like tracking population trends and tracking species that might be sensitive or threatened, and really all sorts of great things. And a lot of science right now is beginning to incorporate more citizen science data. So it's really important stuff, and I'll show you a little bit of it in action in just a minute. Yeah, so I guess I'll go ahead and get started and show you guys how it's done. All right, so I'm about to check this box right here. This is box number 1. It's at the golf course part of Steele Creek Park. And so there are a couple things to keep in mind when you monitor boxes. So the biggest thing to remember is to try to minimize disturbance as much as possible, because you don't want to accidentally scare away an adult and end up hurting the young or anything like that. So just keep in mind to try to keep disturbance at a minimum. So one of the ways we do that is, well, we actually make noise when we walk up to the boxes. I can clap my hands, wave my arms, shake my keys, whatever. And so that gives the adults a chance to fly away. So that way they aren't trapped in the box when you open it up, or accidentally grab onto the young and accidentally pull them out of the box when they fly. So there currently are no adults in this box. We already checked it to make sure there were eggs in here for you guys. So I'll just go ahead and show you how it's done. So we just walk up, and sometimes I tap the box again to make sure nothing's in there. And I have a handy little mirror tool. So I just open it up and I check quickly with my little mirror, and I count how many eggs are in there. Currently there are 4 eggs. And so try to keep your check under a minute. So just close it back up. And you actually want to walk away in a different direction than the way you came. And so that way you don't leave a dead end trail for predators to basically smell where you were. So you can just keep walking in a different direction and then go on to your next box. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed seeing that nest. And a couple more tips. Don't ever touch eggs or young. It's actually illegal, so that's a bad idea. And that definitely might increase disturbance, and the adults might end up staying away longer, and it might not turn out well for the young. And another tip is to not go in bad weather for pretty much the same reason. If the adult gets scared off for too long, then the chicks might chill and that won't turn out good. So when you have all of your data though from your visit, you can go ahead and write it down. So what I do is I go onto nestwatch.org and I print off some data sheets for monitoring nests. And they have a lot of great information on the front. Like for example, here's the breeding data that you're going to want to put, like the date, the number of eggs and live young, the nest status, adult activity, young status, all sorts of really important information that scientists use. So what I do is I number my sheets for whatever box I visit. I just put down the date. I put down the number of eggs I saw or young I saw. The adult was not around, so I'll put no for adult. The nest was complete, so I put CN. And I didn't do anything else like manage the nest. I didn't remove any predators or any old nesting material. And so that's all I need. And that's all it takes. And then whenever that's finished and I'm over with the nesting season, I upload this onto nestwatch.org and it gets put into their system permanently. And while we're here in the park, we're going to go ahead and check these Prothonotary Warbler boxes that were put up recently. And we put them up kind of late in the season, but there's still a possibility that birds were using them to nest. And the Prothonotary Warbler boxes basically are the same concept as the Bluebird boxes that I showed you guys earlier. So we put them up to give these cavity nesting birds a place to nest, and we hope that they start nesting in the park, and that would be an awesome nesting record and great contribution to citizen science. All right, and so here's our first Prothonotary Warbler box, and again, it's kind of late in the season, so I'm really not expecting much this year, but at least it'll be ready for the upcoming season. So I'll go ahead and kind of knock on this one, tap on it, make some noise, just like my other boxes, just so I can scare any adults out of it, just in case they're hanging around. So I'm gonna pull this out, do a quick check, and this box is empty, so nothing has nested in it yet. But that's okay, because hopefully it'll have a nest in it next year. But this box is pretty cool because there are some unique features on it that I wanted to talk about. So one of the obvious things about it is this big, like, round thing here. And this is just metal ductwork that we got from Lowe's, and we wrapped it around. It comes already in this tube shape, and it's around this metal pole here. We got some conduit pole from Lowe's. And this pole is small enough and slick enough that it's hard for things like raccoons to climb up it as easily as they would a wooden post. And you can actually get automotive grease and grease the bottom, so it makes it even harder. And then this predator guard here makes it even harder for them to get a hold on it, because as you can see, it moves around a little bit, so it's hard for them to hang on and get a good grip, especially since it's made out of metal and it's kind of sleek. And another thing we put on this box is this little mesh here on the front. It's hardware cloth that we got from the local hardware store. And that helps prevent things like squirrels from chewing out the opening and making it bigger. And if the opening's bigger, that means things like starlings can come and nest in it. And that's bad news for cavity nesters, because starlings are pretty aggressive and they usually will take over any cavities that are available. And so, yeah, those are some of the things we did to predator-proof this box. And we kind of kept it away from any low-hanging branches, so that way things like squirrels and raccoons can't jump on them easily. And it's in close proximity to the water, which is perfect habitat for Prothonotary warblers. And it's surrounded by vegetation, so that way when chicks fledge, they can have some cover to go to. And yeah, I think that's about all. This is our top-notch anti-predator box. So now we're at our second Prothonotary Warbler box, and I'm going to show you guys how to check this one as well. It's basically the same as the Bluebirds. You know, you just kind of clap your hands, make some noise, shake your keys, do whatever, and that kind of gives the adults a chance to get out. And just in case, you can also kind of tap on the box, and that just also gives them a chance to leave before you open it up. So I'm just going to pull out the little nail that we have holding the door down and give it a quick check. And there's actually nothing in here, it's just an empty box right now. That's kind of what we were expecting. It was a little late in the season, so hopefully next year we'll get some birds nesting in this one, but there's nothing in there right now. All right, so here we have a close-up shot of the predator guard on our Prothonotary Warbler box. So we have the metal baffle here and this wooden piece on the top. And so this piece covers up this end so that nothing like snakes can crawl up from the bottom and keep going through the top. So it blocks predators from coming up underneath the baffle. And so again, we can see it's mounted on this pole. It's a small conduit pole, so that way things like raccoons have a hard time climbing up it. And the box, we put this little metal piece in front. It's just a piece of hardware cloth. There are more, well, we just kind of made this by ourselves, but you can actually buy pieces to go in front too. And here on the side, we drilled some ventilation holes. And that's really important if you're deciding to put up a box maybe in an open area that's not shaded, or if you live in a place that gets really hot and humid. And on this side, we left a little gap so that way we could actually open the box without the edge catching the top, but it also helps for cross ventilation. So, and on the bottom of the box, we drilled a couple little holes so that way if water gets in the box or if there are parasites in the box, they can hopefully fall out the bottom. Yep, and so hopefully early next year, we'll have some Prothonotary warblers in the park. They tend to start nesting from late March to mid-May, depending on where they are, just latitude-wise. And we got some Prothonotaries in the park earlier this year, and they were kind of late, so we were hoping that maybe they'd stick around and nest a little bit. And we haven't had anything in these boxes yet, but we're hopeful that they'll come back and nest next year. And this is our third and final Prothonotary Warbler box. So I'm going to do the same thing, just make some noise, tap on the box, pull out the pin, and there's nothing. And actually one of the reasons I put the door on the side is because of a recommendation from the Tennessee Bluebird Society. And this one lady that they knew had a Bluebird box that opened in the front, and she opened it up and the bird flew out and she ended up falling back and breaking her wrist. So it's not required, but it's handy to have it on the side just to give the bird some space to leave and not scare you in the process. So there are several ways that you can get involved in citizen science with birds, and what I used is nestwatch.org. And so if you wanted to actually put up your own nest box, you can monitor it straight out of your own backyard and contribute really important data to science. So you can go online, again, to nestwatch.org, and you can look through their nest monitoring manual. You can even get certified to monitor nests. And they have a lot of great information from building boxes to checking them to identifying eggs and all sorts of really fun activities that you might also want to look for. So if you want to get involved with citizen science and nesting birds, that's a great resource. And eBird also is a really great one to get into if you're interested in birds just in general instead of checking nests. But either one of those is a great way to get involved, and I highly recommend it. And it can be in a park or it can just be in your backyard. It doesn't really matter. So, yep, go check it out, and I hope you guys enjoyed.